My name is Lauren Mercer, and I grew up believing loyalty was the backbone of any family. At 29, working as a digital strategist in Denver, I could easily afford a larger apartment, but I stayed in my tiny one-bedroom to save money. Back in high school, when my mom lost her bookkeeping job during the recession, I turned down a scholarship to UCLA and enrolled at the University of Colorado Boulder instead, staying close so I could help keep our household afloat. What began as short-term support quietly stretched into a decade of covering bills my family never acknowledged. Over time, I was paying their car insurance, medical premiums, and even my sister's salon appointments. But to them, I was just careful with money. At our Christmas Eve dinner in Lakewood, my parents laughed openly. "Lauren, you're stingy about everything," my dad joked, and my sister Emily nodded, unaware the reason they lived comfortably at all was because I'd taken less for myself year after year. That was the moment I decided the cycle had to end. Before I tell you how I finally took control back from a family that mistook sacrifice for stinginess, drop a comment with where you're watching from. And if you've ever carried a burden no one thanked you for, hit like and subscribe for more stories about navigating family betrayal. Senior year should have been my turning point. We lived in Golden, a quiet Colorado town framed by mountain views and long winding streets. Dad, Mark, worked late shifts managing security at a ski resort, often getting home past midnight. Mom, Anne, handled guest relations at a mid-range hotel near the foothills. We were comfortably middle class, the kind of family that spent Sundays grilling in the backyard or watching old movies together. Then the recession hit. Mom walked through the front door one afternoon, carrying a cardboard box of office supplies. The hotel cut nearly half its staff. At 48, she was suddenly unemployed. Within weeks, overdue notices piled up. Dad's hours were reduced, insurance costs skyrocketed, and every bill felt heavier. I held my UCLA acceptance letter, but when Dad quietly said, "You should go," I could see the fear in his eyes, and I stayed. Mom needed someone at home while she went to interviews, and Emily was still in school. My sister was 15 then, newly accepted into a competitive magnet program at Golden High, one that covered tuition but nothing else. My younger brother, Colin, 13, had just started junior golf lessons at a community course near the foothills, something Dad encouraged to keep him active and focused. That night, I made the decision that changed everything. I turned down UCLA and committed to the University of Colorado Boulder, close enough to commute and affordable with in-state rates. I moved back into my childhood room to save on housing and took a part-time job as a front desk clerk at a small hotel chain in Denver, $15 an hour for evening shifts. The schedule was relentless. I'd finish classes at 3, drive straight to work by 4, check guests in until 11, then head home to study until 2 in the morning. Some nights, I stayed awake only because I grabbed coffee from the lobby before clocking out. At 22, my first real paycheck felt like freedom until I opened my banking app and saw the mortgage still overdue. Mom cried when she saw the account balance update, hugging me like I'd rescued the house single-handedly. Dad promised the struggle was temporary, just until she found new work. I nodded, too tired to question it. Emily needed uniforms for her program, $200 each, plus lab fees and a tablet update the scholarship didn't include. I covered it quietly, transferring funds while she rolled her eyes about dress codes. Colin's coach insisted he needed private lessons to stay competitive, $300 a month and new clubs each season. I paid for the first set, $800, telling Dad it was an early birthday surprise. They assumed the magnet program covered Emily's extras and that Dad's bonus paid for Colin's gear. I let them believe it. Helping felt right at first, like I was holding the family together just like Dad always preached. But the late shifts wore on me. I'd come home to a quiet house, microwave leftovers, and study on the couch. When the electric company threatened disconnection, I picked up extra shifts. Grades stayed high, but friends drifted as I turned down plans. Bills piled up, and more often than not, I covered them. And still, at weekend barbecues, Dad raised his beer to teamwork, smiling as if nothing had changed, while my bank account quietly kept us afloat. Mom talked about redecorating once interviews came through, unaware I was already scrambling to keep the lights on. I stayed quiet, convinced this was what loyalty looked like. After 4 exhausting years balancing classes and hotel shifts, I finally crossed the stage at the University of Colorado Boulder, graduating with honors in digital marketing. For a moment, the applause felt like a reset button. A Denver tech startup offered me $65,000 as a junior content strategist, a solid start for someone my age. I accepted the offer immediately and began hunting for apartments. I found a modest studio near Sloan's Lake Plain walls, a cramped kitchenette, and a view of a parking lot, but it was cheap enough for me to keep helping at home. I packed my belongings into my dented Honda Civic and moved out for the first time. My first paycheck felt like freedom until I checked my banking app. The mortgage on my parents' house remained overdue, Mom's job search had stalled, and Dad's reduced resort shifts covered little more than groceries. I set up automatic payments for the mortgage, then added the car insurance for everyone, Mom's SUV, Dad's truck, Emily's old sedan, and eventually Colin's future car. Emily's program fees totaled $1,200 each semester. I transferred the amount without mentioning it. Colin needed upgraded golf equipment for high school tournaments, $2,000. I handed Dad the receipt and blamed it on a company perk. He thanked me, unaware of the truth. My studio became a minimalist refuge. A thrifted futon, a folding table, and shelves made from cinder blocks filled the space. When overtime didn't come through, dinners were instant noodles stretched across several nights. I drove the Civic everywhere, radio stuck on one station, calculating bills while coworkers discussed weekend trips and new gadgets. Work was demanding but rewarding. Crafting social campaigns for tech clients, tweaking copy late into the night. After 6 months, I earned a small raise. At the company's winter rooftop party, my coworker Ryan pulled me aside. "Lauren, you're doing incredible work," he said. "So why live like you're broke? Treat yourself." I hesitated, then revealed the truth: every bill, every sacrifice, every paycheck funneled back home. Ryan stared. "Lauren, you're 22. Your family can't expect you to carry everything." He argued I deserved my own life, maybe room to travel or start saving for a future home, but I brushed it off with a polite smile. His words stuck with me though, settling like a seed I kept trying to bury. A few months later, dating slipped into the picture when I met Adam at a Denver marketing mixer. He was a freelance designer with easy laughter and weekend plans that revolved around hiking trails and mountain sunrises. Our first dates were coffee runs and long walks around Sloan's Lake, simple, inexpensive, comfortable. When dinners became part of the routine, I always suggested budget spots, claiming I was focused on long-term goals. Adam admired my discipline at first. But after 4 months, he planned a nicer evening at a small Italian place downtown, complete with wine and dessert. Before leaving, I checked my bank balance and saw Emily's tuition transfer had drained more than expected. I suggested splitting the bill, but he insisted on covering it. Still, tension simmered. Over dessert, he finally asked, gently, why I never treated myself. "You're always saving," he said. "But saving for what?" I mumbled something vague about the future, dodging the truth. The drive home was quiet. His text the next day ended it. He wanted someone aligned with his financial outlook. I stared at the message from my futon, then deleted it without replying. Work filled the space he left. By my second year, I handled major client accounts, presenting strategies in glass-walled conference rooms. The raise helped, but so did the mounting expenses. Emily had started driving, adding fuel and repairs to the list. Colin qualified for regional golf tournaments requiring travel fees and upgraded equipment. Mom picked up occasional consulting work, but nothing steady. Dad talked about retirement dreams, unaware my paychecks kept them afloat. Sunday dinners in Golden continued, laughter flowing until comments surfaced about my old Civic or plain outfits. I deflected with stories about campaign wins. Ryan checked in during coffee breaks, half joking that I was bankrolling a homestead. His concern lingered. Some nights the studio felt smaller, noodle packets stacking up, but the mortgage stayed paid. Then came the remodeled kitchen, quartz counters, recessed lights, a $12,000 upgrade unveiled like a trophy. I had wired the funds after Mom casually mentioned wanting a kitchen update, standing there awkwardly as the contractor installed everything during one of my weekend visits home. The first meal cooked on the gleaming quartz counters featured herb-crusted lamb chops, garlic mashed potatoes, and a Cabernet that cost more than my weekly groceries. Plates clicked against the stone surface as Mom beamed, smoothing her hand over the counter. "Finally feels like a real home," she said, then glanced at my faded wool coat by the door, the same one I'd worn since college. "Lauren, that thing has seen better days. Time for something new, don't you think?" Laughter rippled around the table, light, but undeniably pointed. Emily scrolled through her phone between bites, fresh from her weekly spa session, skin glowing from a facial and massage that ran $500 a month. She set her phone down to show off a posed selfie, ready for Instagram. Colin leaned back in his chair, wrist flashing under the pendant lights with a brand new $8,000 Rolex he'd bought downtown, proudly replaying his unboxing video. "Check this out," he said, tilting the watch toward Dad. "Investment piece, right?" Emily added. Then, without looking up, "Lauren, you think like someone who's broke. You need to enjoy life." Colin nodded. "Yeah, no offense, but your Civic looks like it belongs to a freshman pulling all-nighters." Their words landed casually, wrapped in sibling banter, but the sting was real. I forced a smile and passed the potatoes. Aunt Gail began visiting more often after the remodel, sweeping in with oversized sunglasses and loud opinions. She'd hug Mom, then settle at the island bar. "Emily, honey, you're radiant," she'd coo, lifting my sister's manicured hand. Turning to Colin, she admired the Rolex. Future CEO energy. Then her eyes drifted to me, unloading groceries from reusable bags. "Lauren's always been practical. Reminds me of the help we used to have always counting pennies." The room chuckled, Mom included. I kept stacking cans, jaw tight. Dad tried stepping in once when Emily complained about my refusal to join a group vacation, accusing me of holding everyone back with my poor mindset. Colin agreed, bragging about his latest tournament funded entirely by fees I'd paid. Dad cleared his throat. "Lauren's smart with money." His voice trailed off as Mom shifted to neighborhood gossip. No one mentioned where the remodel money came from. By Thanksgiving, the tension felt impossible to ignore. Extended family packed around the expanded dining table, complete with leaf inserts I didn't even know Mom owned. Relatives from Dad's side flew in from Arizona, and cousins from Mom's side drove up from Colorado Springs, filling the ranch house with overlapping voices and second helpings. The spread featured a specialty shop smoked turkey, citrus cranberry relish, and a pecan pie served with artisan vanilla ice cream. Aunt Gail held court near the dessert station, admiring Emily's new highlights. "This girl glows like a magazine cover," she declared, setting the standard. She ruffled Colin's hair next. "And this one already dresses like he owns the place." Conversation shifted my direction when someone asked where I lived. "Still in that studio, right?" an uncle said. "One bedroom? Come on, Lauren. Upgrade already, you work in tech." Emily smirked. "She likes roughing it. Claims it builds character," Colin added. "Character won't pay for better wheels than that old Civic." Gail raised her glass. "To each their own, but some of us actually know how to live." "It's Tumin," Dad murmured. "She's responsible." But his voice was drowned out by requests for more wine. I refilled glasses quietly, the cool quartz counters grounding me. The jabs became routine. Mom hosted a neighborhood potluck using the new appliances, bragging while glancing at my thrifted scarf. Emily planned a birthday spa day for her friends charged to my card without asking, then teased my peanut butter lunches. Colin upgraded his phone case to match the Rolex, posting comparison shots online. Gail visited weekly with gifts for the kids and commentary on luxury brands. "Lauren could learn a thing or two," she'd say during backyard barbecues I helped pay for. The house glowed with upgrades my salary enabled, yet somehow my presence dimmed. Spa charges hit my statements regularly. The Rolex installment paid off early by me. Annual Disney passes renewed without discussion. Criticism escalated, wrapped in concern about my choices. Mom started hinting about a birthday cruise. Emily browsed designer bags. Colin talked custom golf gear. Gail encouraged me to stop surviving and start thriving. Dad's half-hearted defenses faded. One evening, I grabbed Mom's iPad to plug it in. The screen lit up with an active FaceTime group chat on mute, three familiar faces filling the display. Mom sat in her favorite chair, wineglass in hand. I saw the screen before I heard the words. Mom sat in her armchair on a call. I froze behind the kitchen island when the sound came on. Honestly, Lauren is frugal to a fault. She acts like every dollar is her last. Emily snorted. Please. She probably makes 40 grand, tops, and hoards it. Who lives like that in Denver? Gail laughed. Did you see that coat at Thanksgiving? Threadbare. Girl wouldn't know how to spend money if it jumped out of her bank app. Mom nodded. Exactly. We're over here enjoying this kitchen she'll never appreciate, and she's eating ramen in that shoebox apartment. If you were go host with it, Krista evaded. I stood there as they dissected my life without knowing the half of it. Emily peeled off her mask. If she loosened up, maybe she'd have a social life instead of spreadsheets. Gail sipped. Some people are wired tight. Lauren's one of them. Penny pincher extraordinaire. Mom sighed. I hinted about that birthday cruise, but she'll just say she's saving again. For what? A bigger closet of thrift finds? Their laughter bounced off the quartz I'd paid for. No one mentioned the spa charges on my card, the Rolex on Colin's wrist, or the Disney passes I'd renewed. To them, my restraint was a flaw, not the engine keeping their lifestyle running. I set the iPad down, slipped out the back door, and sat in the Civic with the engine off. The dashboard glowed while tears came fast. 5 years of transfers flashed through my mind. Mortgage payments, insurance, tuition, club fees, money routed from my accounts. They saw stinginess. I saw survival. I wiped my face, started the car, and drove to my studio. Windows cracked to let the cold air erase the evidence. At my folding table, I opened my laptop and pulled bank exports from the past 5 years, building a spreadsheet. Mortgage, insurance, school costs, remodel, trips, emergencies. The total glared, $152,000. The next morning, I printed 20 copies at the office, stapled each set behind a summary page, and booked a meeting with a financial advisor downtown. He reviewed the printouts spread across his desk, eyes tightening at the totals. Lauren, this is unsustainable, he said. You're 27, with no retirement savings, barely a month of emergency funds, and nothing in your name. You need to stop. Protect your future. Build a 401k, start an IRA, and redirect your income. Take's gone. He outlined a simple 3-month transition plan. Notify my family, transfer all accounts back to them, provide resources, and step away. This isn't support, he added. It's dependency, and it's costing you your life. I left with templates and a hardened resolve. Therapy came next. HR recommended a quiet practice near downtown Denver. The counselor listened as I described the overheard call in the spreadsheet. You've carried your family so long, you no longer recognize your own needs, she said. Their comments aren't about money. They reflect control. You're being exploited. She taught me boundaries, how they protect survival, not selfishness. We practiced scripts, imagined life after stepping back, and unpacked years of guilt. What does Lauren want? She asked. The question echoed on my drive home. I refined the spreadsheet nightly, adding screenshots of autopays and confirmations. Each update strengthened my resolve. The advisor emailed polished versions of my letters, firm, factual, clear. My therapist assigned journaling on identity beyond giving. Sleep improved slightly, though the laughter from that call still slipped into dreams. Ryan noticed my distraction at work. Over lunch, I explained the plan. He nodded. You deserve your own paycheck. The packets sat in my passenger seat as I drove to Golden for the meeting. Mom replied with emojis. Emily asked if dinner was included. Colin sent a thumbs up. Gail confirmed she'd drop by. None sensed the purpose. That Saturday, I gathered them in the living room and placed the packets on the coffee table. When everyone settled, I slid a copy to each. These are the numbers, I said. $152,000 over 5 years. Mom froze mid-sip. Dad adjusted his glasses. Emily flipped straight to her tuition lines. Colin stared at his section in silence, the Rolex gleaming under the room lights. Colin zeroed in on the golf entries, his face paling. Gail's eyebrows shot up at the remodel total, lips parting in disbelief. I walked them through the breakdown steadily, refusing to rush. Mortgage, 98,000 over 48 payments. Car insurance for all vehicles, 9,600. Emily's tuition and program fees beyond her scholarship, 14,400. Colin's equipment, lessons, and tournament entries, 12,000. Kitchen upgrade, 12,000. I continued. Disney annual passes for 3 years, 9,000. Repairs and emergencies, 2,800. Each category had dates, confirmation numbers, and bank references. Mom gasped first, hand flying to her mouth. Lauren! How? Dad leaned forward, tracing the mortgage column with a shaking finger. Realization settled over him like a heavy cloak. Emily's face flushed. Wait, the spa charges? Those were you? She whispered. Colin muttered. My clubs? All from you? Gail clutched her packet, eyes darting across the totals. I moved on to the plan. Effective today, I'm starting a 3-month transition. I handed out the resource packets. I'll transfer all accounts back to your names, cancel autopays, and give you lists of job leads, certification programs, budgeting tools, and community resources. After 90 days, you'll manage everything, independently. It's Stan Faber since us. Inside each packet were Colorado job listings, Coursera links for finance courses, contacts for local assistance programs, and template budgets. Mom dropped her packet untouched. You're abandoning us, she cried. After everything, you'd leave your own mother with nothing? Tears spilled instantly. Dad stayed silent, eyes glued to the papers. Emily exploded. This is ridiculous. You're really cutting us off? I have plans, Lauren. Colin jumped in, voice cracking. What about my tournaments? I'm ranked. You can't just pull funding. Gail rose theatrically. Ungrateful child, you're destroying this family. Accusations flew. Mom sobbed. Think of your father's stress, my job hunt, how will we live? Emily pointed at me. You owe us after everything you've done. Colin slammed his soda can. This is betrayal. Gail rallied them again. She's turning her back on blood. Dad finally murmured. There has to be another way. Chaos swirled. I raised my hand, breath steadying. I gave out of love, I said. Mortgage for a roof, insurance for safety, tuition for futures, equipment for dreams, remodel for comfort, passes for memories. But in return, I received mockery. I looked at each of them. That FaceTime call showed the truth. This isn't punishment. It's protection for all of us. Dependency breeds resentment. Independence builds strength, I said. Mom cried harder. Emily scoffed. Easy for you to say with your fancy job. Quote? Oh, just. Gail sneered. Cold-hearted. Dad sighed, shoulders sinking. I continued. My advisor says I'll jeopardize my retirement if I keep this up. My therapist calls it financial and emotional exploitation. 3 months gives you time to adjust, apply for aid, cut luxuries, and earn income. Colin protested about upcoming tournaments. Find sponsors or part-time work, I said. Emily demanded exceptions for essentials. We'll define essentials together, I replied. Gail tried guilt. Your grandparents would be ashamed. They taught self-reliance, I said. This honors that. 2 exhausting hours followed tears, anger, pleas. Mom begged for extensions. Dad asked logistical questions. Emily stormed out and back in. Colin tried negotiating partial support. Gail repeatedly called me selfish. I stayed firm, redirecting to the resource packets. Finally, I ended it. 90 days starts now. I love you. But enough is enough. Silence spread across the room. Papers lay scattered across the coffee table like debris from a collapsed illusion. 3 months later, a sharply stamped urgent notice arrived. 3 missed mortgage payments. Foreclosure initiated automatically. Moving day unfolded beneath a pale Colorado sky. A rented truck backed into the golden driveway. Boxes were hurriedly labeled. Mom wrapped the remodeled kitchen's china in newspaper. Dad hauled furniture to the curb, jacket damp with sweat despite the cold. Emily packed designer bags into her sedan, pausing to film the empty house for social media. Colin stuffed golf gear into a duffel, muttering about storage fees. Gail supervised from the porch, arms crossed. The once bustling ranch house echoed as the last box left. They moved into a two-bedroom apartment in Lakewood. Thin walls, worn carpet, rent at $1,200. That night, Gail sent a long tirade accusing me of destroying the family, dooming them to poverty, and betraying blood. "You ruined everything," she wrote. I read it once, then blocked her number along with Mom's, Dad's, Emily's, and Colin's. Emily sold spa gift sets online to cover utilities. Colin sold the Rolex, proceeds vanishing into overdue bills. Both vented publicly, calling me selfish. Dad found part-time security work at a rec center, badge hanging loose after stress-driven weight loss. Mom enrolled in an online hospitality management program, completing modules late at night on a borrowed laptop. She sent applications, but interviews were scarce. The Lakewood apartment cramped them bunk beds for Emily and Colin, the living room doubling as storage, and a kitchen barely large enough for a small table. No more golden backyard barbecues, no ski day outings, no casual upgrades. They adapted unevenly, budgets stretched thin, luxuries fading into memory. I enforced the cutoff consistently. Missed calls piled up, voicemails shifting from anger to desperation, but I didn't respond. No visits. No holiday cards. The silence became space I could finally breathe in. I upgraded to a two-bedroom loft in downtown Denver, high ceilings, mountain views, furniture chosen for comfort rather than cost. Nearly 2 years later, Adam reached out through a mutual friend, curious after hearing rumors. We met for coffee. The conversation flowed easily without financial shadows between us. Reconnection came naturally, weekends spent hiking along Clear Creek, boots crunching through pine needles. I redirected my giving toward community instead of family demands. I volunteered to teach free financial literacy workshops at the Golden Community Center. My first student, a 4-year-old named Marcus, arrived skeptical but determined. Supporting his single mom and siblings on retail wages mirrored too much of my past. We mapped his income, cut subscriptions, built a savings plan. By week 4, he earned a promotion. His mom enrolled in GED classes. "You taught me boundaries aren't cruel," he said at graduation. Word spread. Classes doubled. The fallout crystallized what I had learned. Generosity without limits becomes exploitation. Independence isn't optional, it's survival. My relatives now face that truth in their small apartment, choices finally their own. Have you ever had to choose yourself over family expectations? Share your story below.